link should be UEXC8. UEXC8 should be the Nearpod code for the second unit. It's more or less the same as the first unit, just an expansion. Right? In the past, Unit 1 used to be just part of the introduction topic used to just be part of Unit 1. Now Unit 1 is its own separate topic, and so we are now officially moving into Unit number 2, even though I still quite often refer to it as Unit number 1. Don't worry about me. I'm getting old. I forget things. EXC8. We could join in with the Nearpod code. Right, so you're all arriving in there. Fantastic. Good to see. Brilliant. Right. Now, we're going to be talking about the market model. Now, how the market model is going to be discussed and described in this particular unit is it's going to be discussed in the context of two aspects. One, competition, and another, efficiency. Now, efficiency is obviously one of our key concepts for IB economics in the new syllabus. So quite often we are going to need to refer back to efficiency. We're going to talk about how the market works. We're going to say, is it efficient? We're going to talk about a government intervention, and we're going to say what happens to the level of efficiency, okay, with regards to that. All right, and at a certain point after another couple of weeks, we will be introducing the IA to you, and part of that will also potentially discuss efficiency as well. All right. The general heading that we remember for this section of work is actually microeconomics. All right. So we're going to be dealing with, remember, economics was broken in two. We had microeconomics and macroeconomics. So our microeconomics contains all of the discussions, the theories, the models, all about individual consumers, individual producers, the decisions that they make. And yes, we can bring in the behavioral economics, etc., within there. There is elements of HL material that we will pass through. And after we've done the pathway exam, there is a very big section of HL only work. But at that point, we will know very clearly who the HL learners are. And therefore, they will be the ones completing that. And the standard level learners, they will have that release time in order to work on IAs, EEs, and everything else. Now, I'm not assuming that you know nothing, right? I'm going to say that you've got a fair understanding of what a market is. In fact, I'm going to assume that you've participated relatively frequently in markets of one kind or another, because there are lots of markets out there. Of course, being a superhero, my favorite market was the supermarket. Yeah, okay, I need my no button. Where's my no button? Right, but there are lots of different types of markets. Right, you could even consider, yeah, thank you. You can even consider the stock market and the share market as a type of market, because they are, all right? There's all sorts of weird names for all sorts of different markets. There's also things called futures markets in the stock market sort of world, investment world. And yeah, you kind of sound like you're betting on your future with regards to that, or you're buying shares in time. You know, create a portal, go through time. Okay. So there are those sorts of markets. There are what are called commodity markets. Another fancy name for a commodity market is a factor market. There are the street vendor sorts of markets, and obviously we're going to be talking about something called a competitive market as well. What about a service market? Can we have service markets? Can services be in a market? What do we think? Oh, and then the next one is, can the government be in a market? What do we think? Yep. Adam says yes, so therefore it is true. All right. In case you haven't read, Adam's written a book, and it's called The World According to Adam, and it has the truth, right? In Adam philosophy, Adam philosophy. Yeah, I just find that quite funny. Etymology. There you go. Yeah, well, exactly. Right, exactly. All right, now, so what about the government? Does the government participate in markets? Kind of wanting a yes, no, yes, okay, fantastic, Luckman, absolutely yes, well done. So you might remember I used a phrase, trying to remember when, some time ago, economic actors, right? Because all the world's a stage, yeah? And you or I are merely players. Economic actors are the people in the economy, all right? So we're talking consumers, producers, the governments, right? All of those are economic actors, the businesses, all right? So whenever we talk about, if I ever refer to economic actors, please just, make that link. That's who I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who work and operate inside an economy. All right. So yes, because the government is an economic actor, they actually are involved in an economy, and in quite a big way. For example, we did a statistical analysis in New Zealand in the 1990s, I think it was. And the New Zealand government at that time was 30% of the entire New Zealand economy. All right. So of all the markets, all the economic activity that was going on in New Zealand, 30% of it was actually coming from the government. And when I was talking to the economist who came out with that particular statistic, I said to him, that sounds a really, really big statistic. That's a very big number. And he said, yes, it is. He said, and his analogy was it's the equivalent to an elephant in a rowboat. All right, 30%. So when the elephant moves, so does the rowboat, which I thought was a really good analysis and a really good analogy being used there. All right. So the government can indeed be part of a market. The government can have markets of its own. The government can be involved in the buying of goods and services. Services themselves can also be in markets. And we see service markets like the financial markets, obviously tasks performed for you like hairdressing or lawn mowing are part of a market as well. So here's your challenge. What is a market? What is a factor market? What is a product market? And go. All right. What is a market? What is a factor market? What is a product market? All right. Oh, here we go. Market is an institution has. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Well done, Adam. That looks very good. Very concise. I'll wait on some of the others. Here's Eason. Where have you gone, Eason? I cannot see you. Are you in the near pod, Eason? Okay. Thank you. Here we go. Joshua. Oh, good. That sounds very formal. Well done. Good language used. Oh, okay. That's an idea. That's a good way to put it as well. Excellent. Very good, Joshua. Well done. There is something that you could add to your explanations. Good. Very good. Oh, here we go, Luckman. Okay, excellent work. Andage. Excellent, well done. Yeah, we'll talk about resources. When we talk about the factor market, another name for a factor market is a resource market, a market where the factors of production are bought and sold. Yeah. All right, just waiting on the last couple. Good. Yeah. Excellent work, Easton. Well done. One of the things that you haven't included, team, oops, Faisal, is a real life example. A real life example. I know that isn't necessarily easy to think about, particularly if you're thinking factor markets. But you could go for one for a product market. You might be able to come up one for a factor market, depending on how broadly you view the term factor market with regards to the factors of production. The reason why I say that is because real life examples help you with your understanding. They also are something that is specifically mentioned inside your mark scheme. So the examiner is going to look for those real life examples that you use. And because they're dealing with rubrics now, what we're thinking is that there's a certain band within your mark bands where you have to have discussed, explained, included a real life example. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to go higher beyond that particular point. So just as a point going forward, we're going to attempt to put as many real life examples in to our work as we can. Well done, team. All right, so key terminologies: markets, places, situations. Buyers and sellers are going to meet at those places to exchange goods and or services. Now, there you see I've written, for example. Markets don't have to be physical places. You'll notice I use the word situation, because back in the day we used to have people who would have, they'd drop little leaflets under your door quite often, but in your letterbox, and it would be, this is before the internet, okay? So, and in it would have a list of products, and then you tick the products that you want to buy, and then you put your money in the leaflet. Yeah, I know, sounds secure. You put it back in your letterbox, and then someone comes and collects it, and then a little while later, another person comes and drops off those products again at your letterbox with a receipt. Yes, that is how things were done at one point in history. We also used to have telephone-based markets where you would ring people up and talk to them over the telephone and attempt to buy a good or a service over the phone. And again, that's all before we reach this modern technological age where you can just look at your phone and buy a good or a service. You know, it's pretty scary. Amazon one-click button, right? One-click buy button. All of those sorts of ideas. Right? Modern markets are everywhere. So a good, right, is that tangible item, right, that you're going to buy. That usually is, so tangible, physical, that usually is a final good, perhaps, well, it could be a consumer good, or it could be a good for a producer, so a capital good is another thing to think about. Services, we talked about those. Those are going to be intangible, not touchable. Those are the sorts of products well, they're not products. Those are the tasks that are then performed for you. So hairdressers, financial services, etc. You can have some businesses, as we're well aware, that will be selling both a good and a service. So if you go to McDonald's, you'll be buying the goods from the shop, but you will also have somebody behind the counter performing a service. So there are both aspects of those in there. Factor markets, as said, those were the resource markets, and products markets, those were the markets that sold the goods and or services. Well done. So then we have to look at this idea of competition. And we're thinking here about competitive markets. You might recognize the image on the left, and you might recognize, hopefully, the image on the right. I tried to choose the one on the right deliberately because you would recognize it. So all I'm going to say is, which of those two images do you feel is competitive, and what makes it so? Which of those images is a competitive market, and why do you think they are competitive? On the right, multiple sellers offering the same products. Good work, Adam. All right, what do the rest of you think? Which one would be competitive? Competition. Challenging each other in order to win the sale. Any other thoughts other than Adam's?
I mean, it would still be the right side, the right picture, because technically, like in terms of competition, let's say they're competing for the consumer's like money and the consumer's attention to buy the products. And like Adam said, like they're similar products, so they have to try to compete for the consumer's attention for their specific product instead of the other one.
Absolutely right. Well done. Yes, and another good point, low barriers to entry in that particular industry. Absolutely right. Very good. Gosh, you guys are rock stars. You could sit the exam tomorrow and you'd ace it. Well done. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So the more customers there are, potentially it's going to be quite a competitive market. The more producers there are, it's going to be a very competitive market, and then they're selling the same product. But then the one on the left had a whole lot of customers, but one producer. Is that competitive? Adam says, nope. Nope. Well, you need to be careful, right? Because there is an element of competition there, but where is the competition? What do you think? Between the consumers. Well done, right? The one on the left was an auction. That's absolutely right. So there is competition there, but as you correctly point out, it is competition with the consumers. I don't know if any of you have actually been in an auction before. Anybody? Gone onto eBay? It's quite scary, to be perfectly honest. I've gone onto eBay and done auctioning. I've gone on to Trade Me, which is the New Zealand version of eBay, which, you know, its name, Trade Me, right? Which kind of sounds like what you do for a member of your sports team that you didn't want anymore. Oh, Trade Me, right? And we also attempted to sell our house in New Zealand via auction. You know that there are some blind auctions where you just have like bids on bits of paper, so you don't actually know who the consumers are. And there are some others where it's just straight hands up. All right, who's going to bid? I've been in those, and they can be, again, quite frightening. The idea with the paddle or the number and you're sticking your hand up is any subtle movement or gesture could be registered as a possible sale. So you do have to be quite careful. So there is some competition there. But yes, you're absolutely right. The image on the right, good old Petlanjaya, which I'm probably pronouncing terribly wrong, all right, is very much of the competitive market for exactly the reasons that you were saying. Lots of producers, lots of very similar products. They're possibly all competing on price, All right, and I'm sure you've probably been down there. I mean, obviously not at the moment. All right. Oh, in fact, I'm going to jump back. Let's take another one. There's another one that I'm familiar with. Has anybody been to Thailand? Familiar with? Yes, a couple of you. You might be familiar if you've done the sort of the touristy things in Thailand. You might have gone to a market street in Thailand, and there's a very famous one. I assume it still is. I mean, obviously at the moment, you know, Khao San Road, which I'm again probably pronouncing really badly. But I've got vivid memories of going there and seeing this marketplace. It was incredible. It was, you know, stall after stall after stall selling T-shirts, stall after stall after stall of the people who make suits for you, and they measure you and make you a suit. And people selling scorpions on a stick. It was quite exciting. Hadn't seen that before. And they had these weird, really aggressive sales techniques, and you've probably seen these, right? The men in the tailor shops would come running out the tailor shop when you walk past. Come in. Right? Measure you for a suit. Cheap, you know? And you may have been in that sort of situation. There was another one, and they used to shoot you with the laser pointer. Right? So you'd be a distance away, and all of a sudden it's like laser pointer on you, and then on the ground, and you'd be looking, and then you'd see someone with a laser pointer, and you'd go up to them, but then you're immediately at their stall. I just wanted to get you to my stall to show you, you know? Quite aggressive sort of sales techniques. It was quite interesting. And the one that I saw that I was so tempted, I honestly was. They were selling fake degrees, and yes, and fake passports, but fake degrees. And I was so tempted, I honestly, because I thought it would be funny to buy a PhD from the London School of Economics. That would just be so funny. I would take a photo of it and send it to my big sister and go, in case you're unaware, because I don't think I've told you this, my big sister is an economist with a PhD. So yeah, kind of runs in the family just a little bit, you know. But I honestly, that would just be so, I would find it ridiculously funny, you know. She would be really annoyed, which would be part of the game against that. And it would have been a topic of conversation I could have brought up with her again and again. Well, you aren't counting for my PhD, you know. And she would then get cross with me because she does go by doctor. Right? You do need to refer to her as doctor, otherwise there are problems. Right? So, enough about my family. Let's get back to the narrative. All right, thinking competition. So here we have an idea, and some of you are very familiar with this idea if you've gone through economics before, if you've seen IGCSE economics or EGSE. Right. Here we've got this idea of market structures. There's a power with a market structure. Right? And you see there's like a spectrum, continuum. I don't know what the other word to explain that would be. But it is a spectrum of power. It's a spectrum of competition. So the arrows go to the right and the left. And as you see the one on the left, the word or the terminology that we use for that one on the extreme end is perfect competition. So if we were to have a business in perfect competition, that's where it would be. Right? So the idea is that you couldn't get more competitive than that. It is right, you're using the word perfect. So it is the best, the most competitive that you could possibly be. Then you've got the complete opposite at the other end of the spectrum. Then you've got something called a monopoly, right? And you might have played the board game, right? That therefore would be the least competitive because they're at two ends of the spectrum. So the monopolist is then going to be the least competitive structure of all of the business structures that there could possibly be. And businesses are going to chop and change. They're going to move through these structures potentially throughout their lives. Okay, some of them quite deliberately so, others maybe not as deliberately so. All right. So if I introduce you, jump back to the meat, to a company called Standard Oil in America. It was run by a gentleman called John D. Rockefeller. And if you've been to America, you might have been to the Rockefeller Center, okay, because their family made a lot of money, and one of the things that they did was build a center. And John D. Rockefeller, although he may not have been a particularly pleasant gentleman to a lot of people, one of the things that he did do was start an oil company. And it's a fabulous story. It's in that, it's in that documentary, The Men Who Built America. And it's a really fascinating story. And he was down on his luck. He decided he wanted to be an oil person to make his money. And he was about to basically go out of business, and he had a really important business meeting with a competitor. No, with the train guy, the guy who delivered the oil. And he couldn't make it because he was going to get on the train and he missed the train. And then the train crashed and the people on the train died. So after that point, he kind of said to himself, well, quite clearly, I wasn't meant to be on the train. So therefore I wasn't meant to die. So therefore I was meant to be successful. And so for the rest of his life, that's the attitude he took. And this particular gentleman, Mr. Rockefeller, one of the things that he was determined to do was to move the business model from being a competitive business model where there's a whole lot of different producers of oil to being a less competitive business model where there's basically one. And the more successful he became, the more money he had, the more businesses he ended up buying out. And he bought up more businesses and more businesses and more oil businesses and said to them, now you're all part of my company and we're going to produce one product, and that one product is Standard Oil. And that's kind of where it came about. Eventually, some people were a little bit cross with him, okay? And the government of the time decided that they didn't like the idea that it wasn't very competitive. Now, in America, they have this again and again and again, because the Americans recognized that a lack of competition was not going to be efficient. And that's one of our major themes and one of our major key concepts. So the Americans invented laws to destroy monopolies. They wanted to smash them. Now, if you've been to America, you might have heard people talking about antitrust laws, or you might have read in books about antitrust laws, right? Or people taking businesses to court because of antitrust lawsuit. And that's a fancy way of saying that they are behaving like a monopoly, and we want to smash it. So Standard Oil got smashed into a whole lot of bits. However, John D. Rockefeller still owned the controlling shares of all of the companies that it got smashed into. So he ended up making more money as a person when it was split into a whole lot of different companies than what it was when it was just one, okay, because he owned all the shares. But in any case, that's another story. And it's a great documentary. It does repeat itself quite a bit. Yes, they did. Apple absolutely got into some antitrust trouble a few days ago. Apple's in an ongoing lawsuit with the company that makes that Fortnite game, whoever they are, because of the pricing structure that they have and because of the rules and regulations that they have for the App Store. And, you know, so then the argument is, are they behaving like a monopoly? And yes, they are. Right? Of course they are. They're not the only ones. Okay, Amazon, behaving like a monopolist in a lot of regards, particularly to the suppliers. Okay, and the point is that businesses, if they can see the opportunity to reduce the level of competition, they will. I used to work in a supermarket, if I haven't told you that already before, and the company that we worked for was always in battle with the other major company that was supermarkets in the country, in New Zealand. And one of the things that they would do, they would go to court to try to prevent the other company from opening a new store. So wherever it was that the other company was looking at opening a new store, our supermarket chain was there to try and stop them from opening it. And there was a court case, and it took 10 years for the court case to be resolved. And eventually it got resolved in favor of the other business, and they were allowed to set up their supermarket. But for 10 years, a legal battle, that's really expensive, particularly in New Zealand when money isn't great. All right. But that's what was going on. So the idea here is that businesses are going to move around these competitive structures. They're not going to stay in one particular structure, because the more they move to this less competitive edge, what we're going to find is that they potentially can earn more profits, and they are maybe going to have more market power, all right, which is another aspect of this topic. So very quickly, last thing we're going to do today, I'd like you to explain to me what you think this market structure idea is all about. Where you go, team? Last thing for today. What is this market structure all about that we're talking about? Mm-hmm. There we go. What is market structures all about? Oh, here we go. Work center. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that will do. There's possibly a even simpler way to explain it than that. Good. Yes, Manduj, well done. Yeah, you're on the right path, Luckman. Yeah, there's a couple more aspects to it than that, but yes. Oh, here we go. Well done, Amira. Okay. Tira. Yes. It's a quite clinical approach, which is good. Very good, Adam. Yes, Joshua. Yeah, okay, Ethan. All right, one thing we want to try and avoid, I've seen it a couple of times, is either the so on or the etc. There was an etc. before. Yeah, it's just a little thing, a little issue that some examiners might have with you writing etc. The point being is that if you know the theory, you kind of need to say the theory, or don't say it, sort of idea, rather than just say etc., because that could mean all sorts of different things. Yes, good work, Young Wai. Well done. Oh, Faisal, look at that. Well done. I like that, Faisal. Yes, Ikmal, good work. Gosh, I'm going to find it hard separating you guys out when it comes to exams, I'll tell you that. Yes, good. Should I just give you all sevens now? What do you reckon? Yeah. All right, I think we will jump back to the meat. Yeah. All right, team. Now, so a couple of things that you need to make sure you are doing, right? Registering with the InThink IB, following that link, making sure you can get on the site. I think you can get on the site through the link, or at least, at the very least, just register with it so that I can contact you through the site, okay? It's a little bit clunky, but it's a really good site. The RAG sheet, okay, having a go with the specific learning objectives that we've covered so far. We're moving now into the market model, so there are even more specific learning objectives, but I didn't put them in because we haven't covered them yet, right? So there's no point in testing you on those, you assessing yourself on those. Then the next thing was something else too. The site, right? Unit 1 site. Topic 1 site, I've pinned it into the site, Google Classroom, so please make use of that. There is more resources there that you can shake a stick at, right? There's a lot, and each of these websites, I'm piling resources into them. All right, some of them might be A-level. I've tried to distinguish the A-level ones, so just be a little careful with that. Quite a lot of the resources will be based on the old syllabus because the new syllabus, so do be aware of that, but add to your folders. Find a revision worksheet that you quite like, chuck it into your folder. Find a slideshow that you think works really well, chuck it into your folder, so that you've got extra things that you can look at and work your way through. Build up for yourself some like little playlists for videos, right, based perhaps on the topics or based on the subjects, depending on how you want to do it, so that you can just click to a video and have your headphones in, watching the video, and that is a form of revision, okay? It's something else that you can be doing. All right, team, we're going to finish up there today. Please do review the video, add depth to your notes, have a look through the slides, be aware of what's coming up. Otherwise, as we'd say in the land of my birth, hey, Corneta, and you've done so well, team. You've done so well that I'm going to give you tomorrow off. Yeah, no, that's it. Tomorrow's done. No tomorrow. You can have it as a holiday. All right. Congratulations to you. Have a brilliant day off tomorrow. Have some rest, please. Sleep. All right. Hey, Adam. Yeah, sleep. Do be healthy. Get in touch with each other even. You know, do like one of those sort of Skypes with each other and watch a... yes. Watch a movie with each other or something. I don't know. Just have fun. Yeah. Have a great day, and I will see you again. Well, I'll see some of you on Friday, but I will see the majority of the rest of you on Monday. Hey, Corneta, have a great day.
Thank you for the holiday, sir. Bye bye.
Thank you.
See you
See you,
soon.
sir.
Thank you.